The Blockbusters podcast is a proud member of the Podbros Network. You can find us as well as other fine shows such as Kapowcast, That's Delightful, and Dave Nerd Compendium on podbros.com. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Blockbusters podcast.
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Who's gone off? Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And this is?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Now, where was I?
Welcome to episode 119 of the Blockbusters podcast. I am Paul, and today I am joined by Flicks Xrayed, the podcast. Specifically, Tony, the host. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing quite well. It's kind of nice to be back in the saddle, as it were. I took a little bit of time off because I ended up going to England for a couple of weeks over the holidays, and I'm in a new position at work, so I've been kind of run ragged with that. So it's nice to just kind of sit down and talk about film for a little while.
Life finds a way, right?
Exactly. So, obviously, in case you haven't figured it out by looking at the title of this episode, we are going to be talking about Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and I will very quickly go over the nuts and bolts of that. But first, real quick, if you want to get a hold of us about anything we're about to say, or have said, or anything like that, you can find us at Blockbusters on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Kind of. I'm sort of on those. And you can email us at theblokes@blockbusters.com, or you can go to blockbusters.com, or you can go to podbros.com and check us out on there. And as well, I'm also going to say, if you have the time and the spare money, we are also on Patreon, and right now we're getting enough to keep the lights going, but if you want to help us out at all, we would very, 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 very much appreciate it, and you would be stars in our eyes. Okay, moving on from the sappy stuff. So, we are going to be talking about Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and directed by Kevin Smith, shocker, and it had a budget of $10 million, and as of right now, a box office of $3,514,118 worldwide. However, I think we can pretty much all agree that it's going to make its money back just in terms of home box office and DVD sales and so on and so forth, because that's pretty much where Kevin Smith made his money.
I wonder if that includes the Reboot Roadshow numbers, because that's still going.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's where it's at now, and I don't know how much of the road shows they've released for that. I think that's just the ones that have been reported, like actual box office in theaters. So yeah, maybe the road show will be its own thing on top of that once they actually finish and they tally everything up, and then I believe the DVDs and the VOD is going to be coming out fairly soon. So yeah, that'll be an extra bump, and I get the feeling that the studios and Kevin Smith were not expecting to make the production money back at the box office specifically, because I don't think he's ever done that, actually, has he?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, it's always just been kind of a sure thing for the studios that they'll get the money back. It's just, you gotta take a little time and wait for it to be available to the masses at home. Probably because I'm sure there's a population of people that like to watch his films, that enjoy watching his films while also taking certain things that you can't really do at the cinema. So
you can some of our cinemas here.
I was going to say, maybe I'm generalizing a bit too much there, but there we go. But yeah, before we actually dive into Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, I figured we may as well just kind of briefly go over our our thoughts and experiences of Kevin Smith before this film, just so people get a rough idea of where we're coming from. So, how did you first start watching Kevin Smith, and what do you have a film or two of his that you are kind of your go-to?
I started really watching Kevin Smith's work when I was in probably about high school. I started off with Clerks, and just kind of wound up going up from there. I'm a fanboy, to be honest. Like, in my podcast space room here, I have at least 3 pieces of memorabilia signed by him and Jason Mewes.
Cool.
Yeah, and I've met him a couple times, actually, at different events. But if I'd have to say anywhere my go-to, I'm a big fan of Mallrats and Chasing Amy. Those are my 2 favorites.
Okay. And obviously those are in the ViewAskewniverse. What are your feelings of his stuff outside of that?
Are you talking about like his Canadian horror trilogy, quote-unquote, because the 3rd one's not out yet?
Well, it can be that. Also, Red State as well.
Red State's pretty good. I love Zack and Miri Make a Porno. I think he actually... I believe Kevin Smith does better in the comedy world than the serious world, to be honest.
Yeah, I will say I started watching Kevin Smith. I first saw Clerks, I believe, when I was at university. So that would have been, what was that, like 2008? I think, yeah, towards the tail end of university was when I first saw Clerks. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, it's in black and white. What? No one does films in black and white now. And of course, the fun thing being, well, the reason why it was in black and white, he couldn't afford to make it in colour. Yeah, so I watched that and I really enjoyed it. It was one of those things that I felt that his films contain some of the most authentic dialogue between characters that I'd seen in pretty much any film, because he just writes the way that he talks with his friends, and most films don't have that. There's always that slight level of, well, it's clearly scripted. I mean, obviously you can't really make many films without there being a script to follow, but his films never really felt that scripted to me. And
they feel like real people, the characters.
Yeah, and I think possibly my favorite film of his from the ViewAskewniverse would be Dogma. And I think it's just... I love the sort of irreverence of the whole thing, and you've just got some fantastic performances. For instance, Alan Rickman. You're just brilliant. Alan Rickman, once again, as I always state whenever I bring him up, sounds completely drunk throughout the entire thing, because that's just his thing. And yeah, it's just marvelous film. I really enjoyed it, because it really does tread the line between absolutely absurd and the comedy side, and actually having a good character arc for several of its characters throughout. So, and there's a little bit of a reference to one of them in this, and I think actually out of the other films that I've seen of his from outside the ViewAskewniverse, I've already brought it up, like Red State. For me, I really enjoyed what he did with that, and in case anyone has seen Red State but doesn't know anything outside of that, you need to listen to or watch his Q&A roadshow, where he actually outlines the alternate ending that he created for it, that he knew they would never make because they didn't have the money for it. And have you heard that one?
I haven't, honestly.
You've seen Red State, I
yes.
assume. So, okay, so spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen Red State. You might not want to listen for the next 30 seconds. But the ending that he wrote that he knew would never get used, he kind of wrote because someone dared him to and said he wouldn't be able to do it. So he wrote the Rapture ending, where the rapture happens. And it's awesome to hear him explain it. So... yeah.
You know what? Hearing him explain anything is amazing, to be honest. So did you do the roadshow as well when you viewed this, the reboot, or no?
No, I did not get the chance to get to the road show. I just I happened to catch a showing at the cinema for the weekend it was here. But yeah, I wish I'd actually gone to the roadshow. I was all set to do it. I saw the announcement that, hey, it was coming here on this date, and by the time I saw the announcement, the only tickets that were left were the $700 tickets, and I was like, no, I can't do that, because that was the super VIP ones, and it was like, yeah, as much as I wish I had that much money to drop on the tickets, no, I didn't have that. So
see, I really wanted to go see it, and I was fully prepared not to be able to go due to finances. Similar reason, right? And my wife actually surprised us. We didn't exactly celebrate our anniversary this year, just because of the fact that we were volunteering at a kids camp at this time. So it's like it just didn't really happen for us. And so she surprised me when we got back that she'd actually bought not the super VIP, but the one tier down.
Oh.
Yeah, so she bought that. So we went and saw that. It just came through 2 weeks ago, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You lucky.
I know, right? So me and my wife went and did that, and then we also got signed copies of the script.
Okay.
which was pretty cool. And then he also was there doing a Q&A before and after.
Ah, that's cool. I've never actually been to one of his Q&As, and I now have a 3-year-old daughter, so the chances of me being able to go to one of his Q&As, which are notoriously long and generally don't happen, where I am, the nearest big city that he might possibly come to is about 45 minutes away. So I would have to basically be out until at least midnight, and that's not going to happen. So.
You say that. We were actually surprised at some of the stops that he had here. So I live in Canada, and I live in a city called Calgary. But he was going to some of the smaller cities around us, which are like cities of less than 500,000. So he went to a place called, he went to Lethbridge, Red Deer, Medicine Hat, which all of these are really small cities in our area. But he went through all of those, as well as, like, I'm not even in the provincial capital city. I'm in like a smaller city. But he went to us, and then he went to the capital, which is Edmonton. So,
well, I mean, that'd be nice if he was around here. But just so for in case anyone wants to have a guess as where I am, the city I currently live in has a population as of 3 years ago of just under 36,000 people. So I feel like we're just a little on the small side, even for that. But yeah, I'm going to be keeping an eye out in future. I'm hoping that he'll keep doing his Q&As and his roadshows because he seemed to enjoy them, and
him and Jason Mewes doing their podcast.
Yes, so it's like I'm gonna keep my eyes and ears open, and hoping that something will come along and I'll be able to go to one. But at the very least, they keep releasing DVDs of them, so I could check them out that way.
Yeah, it was actually one of the cool things about the Q&A is he was announcing, I don't know if you've heard about this, because they've kind of put it places, but they've officially started working on Clerks 3.
I believe I saw him, I think he put out a picture of the front page of the script for Clerks 3, and that was his sort of announcement for it, yeah. And
Mallrats 2. He was talking about that. He's got the scripts mostly written for both of those.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what Mallrats 2 would entail, because obviously we've seen Jason Lee's character
in the mall.
We know where he is. So the question is it going to be following him, or is it going to be following the other main character for Mallrats, who I feel like, I don't know, I'm not sure where that would go.
Or a completely bunch of new characters.
Yeah? yeah, could just be, or just kind of following on, and maybe even Holden is watching these new Morats and complaining about them, and he's like the outsider this time. Yeah, and
it would be interesting. I know. So again, at the Q&A, it was really cool hearing Kevin Smith talk for about 3 hours after the movie. But one of the things he said is he revealed what the script of Clerks 3 is going to be to our group. So he actually talked about what his whole plan was for it, which is interesting. Yeah, so that was like mostly because he got very high before coming on stage. So he just started to ramble because, it's legal up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm intrigued because, like, and obviously, like, we can kind of use this to jump into the reboot. So many cameos in reboot. I'm not even going into any of the lead actors and stuff that I normally do because I don't have time to list them all. But Rosario Dawson, who is obviously in Clerks 2, and we assume is married to Dante by the end of it, like, she's in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, but as a completely different character. So, like, the question is, are they going to go back and she's going to be in Clerks 3, or is she not going to be? Are they going to have broken up for some reason? Or,
They could totally do that. I wouldn't be surprised, because let's face it, Ben Affleck plays how many different characters?
A few.
Right? And
Yes.
it's like, they never really talk about that too much.
Yeah, and obviously Jason Lee has 2 separate characters, I believe. So,
Yeah.
So technically he's in Clerk 2 without being his normal character. So yeah,
Brody. But yeah, so I could totally see her coming back because of the fact that we know that she exists in the Clerks universe, and then we see her in this universe, but she's got a different name in the Roadshow.
Yeah, so
Or the reboot. Sorry, I got used to calling it the Roadshow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, fair enough. It's mostly a roadshow at this point. So, yeah, I think she's. I think it's Reggie was the name, if I'm remembering correctly. So, 'cause it kind of stuck in my head because I was like, "Oh, okay, Rosario Dawson." But yeah, so all right, we may as well dive into Jay and Silent Bob Reboot then. So, what were your thoughts when you were going into it? Because I personally had seen a trailer for it, and that was about it. So I didn't actually know much about the plot, and I didn't have any real idea of what they were going to do just in general with it, other than they were making fun of reboot by making a reboot, which is my kind of humor. So
Mine too. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually watch any trailers before I watched it. I'd heard a lot about it, but whenever there's something that I could be remotely excited for, I go dark on it. I refuse to watch anything. And even though it came to the theaters beforehand, I waited till the reboot to go see it. And any of my friends who had seen it, I'm like, don't tell me anything. I don't want to hear about it. Because I just didn't want to have it jading my view at all. And then I think for me, it was like, I was just excited because I was going to see Kevin Smith, and it was just like super exciting in that way. So when I went to it, I was pretty pumped up. And then I think one of the, I don't know what it was like for your viewing, but because of the theater we went to here, it's a very small theater that is it likes to promote a rowdy audience. Beers are served and everything throughout. So it's just like one of those things where when we were watching, the audience was very rowdy, and I think it kind of enhanced the experience. It was one of those things where anytime a cameo came on, everyone in the audience cheered, right? And it was just like one of those type of viewings. So for me, watching it was very, very exciting, very fun, and going to it, I was actually excited to see it. I'm also a fanboy, so it's like, that kind of weighs heavy on that.
Yeah. It was. It wasn't quite like that, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, anytime there was like, oh, they got this person, like there was not a loud cheer, but there was a audience reaction, and the laughs just kept coming, and yeah, it was quite clear everyone there was a fan of Kevin Smith, so they were Kevin Smith fanboys watching a Kevin Smith film, so just that slight electricity was there.
That's fair.
But, yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure most of the audience was high because in the lineup outside, people were just passing blunts around.
Yeah. I myself have not touched that particular substance, but it would not surprise me if that was the state of some of the people that were there. They probably weren't as overt about it because I'm not living in one of the states where it is just properly accepted. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those things. Again, I think that's why Kevin Smith films, they probably don't look at just the box office for them, because I think so many people will buy it for home viewing and enjoy it in whatever state they want with their friends at home. So yeah, it's very interesting to actually see this in the cinema, because I think prior to this, my only Kevin Smith cinema experience was Clerks 2. Everything else I ended up seeing on DVD. So, yeah, very, very interesting.
I think I'm in the same boat. I'm trying to think about it. No, I saw the original Jay and Silent Bob in theaters.
Right.
And that was nowhere near the same level of experience as this one was. And again, like I said, I went to a very special showing where people were willing to shell out lots of money to go see, right? So it's like, It's a different level of fandom at that point. So, and again, I am that kind of fan where it's like, yes, and like I said, my wife knew me well enough to be like, here's your anniversary gift, we're going. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Because I'm blessed with her on that one. But, it's just one of those things where I really enjoyed it, and I thought like the entire concept on paper is funny to me, let alone watching it, where it's like they literally just make fun of reboots by remaking the same movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really interesting idea, and it's one of those things that I'm even wondering, even though, this is very much a Kevin Smith film, and the studio would have had the faith of Kevin Smith at this point. I think that if Deadpool hadn't come out and done so well, maybe this film wouldn't have either been made the same way, or it might have been he might have had to kickstart it instead, because
instead of it being greenlit.
Yeah, I think this film relied heavily on the fact that other films that have that very cheeky wink to camera have done very well. So, yeah.
That's true, because he does like to break the fourth wall a lot in this movie. A lot more than I've seen him do in any other movie. Like, right down to the fact that we have Matt Damon doing a full what happened to Loki after Dogma moment by talking directly to the camera.
Yep. Yeah, and directly calling out, "Hi, I'm Matt Damon. I play Loki."
Yeah, he just full on. It's like not even tongue in cheek at that point. It's like just super blatant.
Yep. And I'll be honest, I did not. I should have, but maybe I was just enjoying the fact that it was Matt Damon talking to us about Loki. I did not anticipate the reborn identity joke.
That was so good. It was, again, that tongue-in-cheek humor that I was just not expecting, and then it just was so funny because you're not expecting it, but it's it's super funny to think that they're pretty much saying the Bourne universe is a part of the Jay and Silent Bob universe.
Yep. Yeah, I really enjoy all of those little things. I think probably my favorite one of those before this film is in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, when Holden says, "A Jay and Silent Bob movie, who'd pay to see that?" And it is just that they all stare at the camera and Kevin Smith just gives a thumbs up. It's just that blatant, we're just going to roll with it. I really enjoyed, and then this film just turned it up to 11 with that.
Every chance they could. Even Ben Affleck making a Batman reference. And then the fact of the matter, when they did the Blunt Man and Chronic, they have Val Kilmer as Blunt Man, and then Melissa Benoist as Chronic, right? Which is just like Supergirl and Batman.
Yep. Yeah, and like after that, I did a quick look. I was like, okay, is Supergirl still going? And it is. So it's like, oh,
and Kevin Smith directs on it.
Yeah, I feel like Kevin Smith might have gone to CW and just been like, can I borrow her for something? 'Cause
I don't even think he had to do that because he's done guest direction on Flash and on Supergirl because he's such a big comic book fanboy that he probably has her in his like repertoire of contacts.
I was not necessarily saying that he would have had to have gone through them to get to her. More just going to CW and say, I want to take the star of one of your big shows and make them get very high on camera. Are you okay with that?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Because it's always interesting to me to see who he can get and what he can get them to do. Now, obviously, some people were just going to be, they're just going to do it regardless, such as, obviously, in the original run of ViewAskewniverse, George Carlin. Like, George Carlin would do anything. And for someone like Kevin Smith, he'll do whatever the hell. And he did several times. So, it's always interesting to see like who they're able to get. And I will fully admit, I did not catch the full significance of some of the cameos because of some of the things I have not seen. I guessed that Tommy Chong, was Tommy Chong just based on how they were kind of treating it. But
not a fan of Up in Smoke.
I have not seen any of the films he has done. Putting that out there, I've not watched any of those. Never actually had the chance to. Never on TV when I was growing up, and I just never felt the need to go and buy the DVDs. So, it's just never come up. Growing up in England, not a lot of Cheech and Chong films on TV. I found it interesting just going back after the film and looking at all of the cameos and double checking, being like, oh yeah, that was this person, that was this person, I think the one that I wouldn't have got if they didn't just flat out say it with Method Man and Redman. I again have not seen the film that they refer to.
How High?
So I have not seen How High.
Or listened to either of their music?
Not my scene. I am more of an indie rock, heavy metal guy. So yes, I have not sat down to listen to the Method Man. But yeah, it's one of those things that I got the inference from all of the cameos that okay, clearly this is a big deal. But it took me going home and looking it up to fully get it. But I have a question for you, and I was wondering what your response is going to be to this. Who do you think the biggest cameo that they got was in this film?
Oh, gotta be Chris Hemsworth.
Yep, I was going to say that too.
He was the most unexpected one, and then to see him in there, I was like, oh, all right, that's fun and totally him.
Yeah, it's something that I have really enjoyed, is just how much Chris Hemsworth is just willing to go with all of this stuff. Like, we have covered the reboot, remake, whatever you want to call it, of Ghostbusters on this podcast, and I will happily go on record to say that the two things that I enjoyed most in that film were Kate McKinnon and Chris Hemsworth.
Right? I'm pretty sure, and I argue about this with that Ghostbusters reboot all the time, about the fact that they were the only two who were allowed to ad-lib, and you can tell.
Yeah, and it like, still my favorite thing in that film, like, if you go back and watch it, it's like, it's probably not even fully intentional. I don't know if it just happened out or whatever, but it's when Chris Hemsworth is saying, what makes me look more like a doctor, playing the sax or listening to the sax? And you can you see him putting the sax up to his ear, and then that's just funny anyway. But then during the credits at the end, you see some more of his Polaroids, and in one of them, he is just in full doctor garb, looking like a doctor. So it's like, he has that photo, but he feels looking like a doctor is when he has the saxophone in the film. So it's like...
Right? Not to get too off track, but my favorite little bit from that one's when the phone is ringing, and there's a fake phone in the fish tank, and he just keeps ramming his hand into the side of it, can't figure it out.
Yeah, and it like Chris Hemsworth, if he's allowed to just go with it, yeah, he's
funny,
really funny.
And I'd love to see him in more comedy things. I even think his bit in this was pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
I'm not quite sure. So the version I watched had a lot of during the credit scenes. Did you have that with yours as well, or not?
Yes, we did. I feel like that's based on what I've read and everything. I think that is just
the standard.
The standard for it, and of course the saddest part of the whole thing is seeing Kevin Smith talking with Stan Lee, and
yeah.
I'm glad they put that in there, and I'm glad we got to see it and got just a little bit of a taste of what it could have been.
So one of the things that Kevin Smith talked about when he was doing his Q&A for this was not only about that part, about doing that, he was actually going to have Carrie Fisher back for a cameo in this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so he had it all set up and arranged, and then she passed, right? And so that didn't happen because she was the nun in the first one, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I was really one of the cameos I wish they had in this one is I would have loved to see Mark Hamill at the convention.
Yeah, like sitting at a booth for the cock knocker, and then like maybe just having only one person in line,
which would be funny as hell. And Mark Hamill would be totally up for it, right? Like,
yeah, and knowing Kevin Smith, he would have had a Mark Hamill lookalike at the next booth over as Luke Skywalker, like, and everyone would be.
And that guy has a line, but Mark Hamill doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I get the feeling that was just he either couldn't make it work schedule wise, or the studio might have been like, we just can't put another person in this,
True. What did you think about Jason Mewes emoting in this one finally?
Yeah, I thought it was really good to have him in the ViewAskewniverse, like really getting some of the dramatic stuff down, because obviously in pretty much all the other ones he's mostly the yelling and
buffoon.
He's just the idiot that yells and happens to do the right thing at the end. Again, probably one of my favorite things in Dogma is when he just starts yelling after God turns up, and it's just that entire thing. It's pretty much on par with Chevy Chase going off the chain in Christmas Vacation. It's that type of thing. It's I love that sort of thing, and so it's good to see that he gave Jason Mewes the chance to really go for it, and that Jason Mewes was ready to do it. I'm
gonna break this illusion for you. Apparently, it was an accident.
Okay.
So because of the fact that it's Harley Quinn working opposite him, right? Which Jason Mewes essentially has been like her uncle for all of her life, right? Because she started crying, he started crying because he thought it was because it was her. If it had been anyone else, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Well, hey, you do what you gotta do, and he happened to put the right combination of people on screen to make it happen. So
happy little accident.
Yeah. But yeah, even so, like, even taking that aside, like, he was able to sort of ground Jay. more than we'd seen before. And I mean, obviously he's still got the insane stuff, such as when he sees Justice on TV. But
and then there was that cameo there, or the double cameo.
Yeah.
In the movies, because it was Kevin Smith's wife and Kate Minucci, right? Which is from Hall & Oates.
Yep. Yeah. It's Mikuchi. Because she's gone on record several times. It's just been like, yes, I know what my last name is. Yes, it's funny, but yeah, not to me anymore. Because obviously it's haha, she's got Coochie in her name. But yeah, I can we just talk about the cameos for this? Because can you imagine what a nightmare this would have been to fully arrange for just all of these cameos? Like, did they plan on shooting over like 6 months just so they could get all of these people on screen when they needed them? I mean, obviously, Kevin Smith's wife is going to be available whenever they're ready to shoot the scene. Mm-hmm. But just like all of the people, like you've got was it Craig Robinson, Joe Manganiello, and Justin Long
in one scene together.
In one scene, and then obviously you've got Ben Affleck and in the same scene as Jerry Lauren Adams. Mm-hmm. Just getting Ben Affleck back.
By the way, so the little girl who was in there, that was Ben Affleck and Joey Lauren Adams' character's daughter. That's actually Jason Mewes' daughter.
You know, I think I heard that. Yeah, and like when I saw the film, I didn't really think much of it, and then someone mentioned it. I was like, oh, okay, like it's that nice. I like that happen. I kind of assumed when I saw it that it was maybe Ben Affleck's daughter or something. Like, I do not follow the lives of celebrities. I do not know what age their children are, if they even have children. I, again, don't know, don't care. But yeah, that was cool. I like that. And obviously, Kevin Smith, he's going to find a way to try and get these people on screen. So maybe she had a SAG card now. I don't know.
Right. What did you think about Fred Armisen as kind of like the pseudo bad guy for a chunk of it?
I really enjoyed seeing him on screen. Like I've seen him in several things, and it's just like, yeah, whenever he's on there, and he kind of has a little bit of a stereotype that he falls into, not stereotype, typecast. He's kind of typecast in a lot of these roles, but it was really nice to see him because, if I was trying to be fully critic mode, which you kind of can't do with this film, but if I was going for it, I could argue that whenever he's on screen, it kind of slows the film down a bit, just because his character is naturally just that slow cadence to it. Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed it. Like it was just so fun, especially that his character is just so boring. Like the whole point, he's just a dull guy, and they just keep screwing him over. So yeah, that's funny. That's where the comedy comes from, folks.
Legit. And again, there's so many cameos in this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like scrolling through IMDb, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about him in there. Like Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh god, he was in there. I forgot about his little bit when they're with the Klansmen. Yeah,
and it's just there's, like I said at the beginning, there's just too many. Well, for instance, you've got Brian O'Halloran as 3 people in this film. Because he is obviously Dante.
The beginning and the end.
Yeah, and then he is the version of his family, I guess, that is the reporter. So he's in that, and then he is himself at the panel. So
oh yeah, I forgot about that bit. And they even bring back Jason Vanderbeek and James Vanderbeek and Jason Biggs.
Yep. Yeah, it's just there's just so many. It's insane. But I guess my question then is, what would be your favorite moment from this film, if you can pick one.
Ooh, that's a challenge. I'd have to say my favorite moment is Kevin Smith playing Silent Bob playing Kevin Smith.
That is a fun one.
Like, it's such a dumb bit, but it's just such a good bit at the same time.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that whole thing's got some great moments in it. I mean, obviously you've got Harley Quinn Smith giving the line of "I can't stand Kevin Smith. He puts his family in everything," which,
and then looking at the camera.
Yep. But I think my favorite thing from this film, just like out of everything, just something that I felt they clearly put it in there for like the original fans, just for the people that have been with them the longest, is the last thing that is in the film that is like canon in the film timeline, which is that Jay tells Millie that they've been putting gum in the locks for 25 years.
which was solid. Like that moment when that happened in the theater, everyone was just howling.
Yeah. It's the one thing that I think he was asked the most about it initially, because as you watch Clerks, it's not 100% clear what the problem is.
But there's always a problem with the locks.
Yeah, and it's never stated out loud in the film, and then it's never stated out loud in any of the other films. Mm-hmm. So like that is quite clearly. I know that the fans that have been following me, that have watched the Q&As and all of that, like they know what happened, because he had mentioned it a couple of times. But this is just like all right, here you go. I'm making it canon now. This is what was happening.
Another cameo I'm really sad didn't happen, but I'm kind of happy didn't. Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Because he was such a big part of the original one, I expected him to kind of show up somewhere.
Yeah.
Or at least the monkey.
That would have been nice if the monkey was... I'll go on record. I have said it before. I am not the biggest Will Ferrell comedy fan.
Oh, thank you. Finally, someone else.
Yeah, now Will Ferrell being serious and getting some real drama going, man, that guy can act. But yeah, his style of comedy, the sort of comedy where the entire point of the joke is that the character is just an idiot, I do not find that funny.
Right?
I've never found that funny. It's why I can't watch Anchorman, period, because that's like 6 characters in that film. Mm-hmm. The same with that Talladega Nights.
Same. Semi-Pro, all of those. The only one of those that where he plays a character who's dumb and it's funny that I like is Elf. And it's because he plays naive really well.
Yeah, that's my wife's, I think, second favorite Christmas film, and I have never finished it. And I don't think I will.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, man. I always say it all the time. I think Will Ferrell makes a great side character. He is not a great main character.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of that sort of character, that sort of thing, which obviously, because he's done it so well, he's going to keep getting offered those parts, and we know he can do them. Yeah, like that I don't want to see. Now, give me a Stranger Than Fiction.
Everything Must Go is another good one.
Yeah, that's one that has been in my queue for so long. I just need to hit the play button because I know I'm gonna like it. I just haven't watched it yet. But yeah, and being English, this might be a shock to some people, but I can't watch The Office either. Like,
right?
I just can't.
The Ricky Gervais one is way better.
Well, that's the thing. I can't watch that one either.
No?
Because it's the same thing. It's the point of it is just a cringe humor, and I can't watch it.
See, I at least like the Ricky Gervais one. The American one's terrible.
Well, that's the thing. I will happily go on record as saying that the Ricky Gervais one is better than the American one, based on the few things I have seen. But now, I will suggest, obviously this is a bit of a tangent, but if anyone is looking for a Ricky Gervais vehicle, watch Extras.
Oh, so good.
Because that is phenomenal. And
Full of cameos.
I would say to tie it in, full of cameos with people that are just willing to do whatever because they can.
I've always joked about this with my wife. If I ever were to become famous, which probably won't happen in my lifetime, I would totally just be like, "Hey, can I do a cameo in your thing?"
Yeah, just be like, yeah, if you have, you've made your money, you can afford to do whatever you want. Just turn up to something. Just be like, I'll be in it. Hello. You don't even have to pay me. I've got a day. I'll do it.
Yeah, I've got a day free here. I'll come be on set. I'll be an extra.
Yeah, it's kind of like what was it? Bill Murray, where he doesn't have an agent, he just has a voicemail box, and you can, if you know the number, you can call up and pitch things to him, and then he just decides what he wants to do.
Well, he can at this point, right?
Yeah, and that's actually how he ended up in the Garfield film, because he thought that the director, whose last name was Cohen, he thought it was one of the Coen brothers, and it wasn't. So he signed on, agreed to do it, and then realized it wasn't a Coen brother, but still did it anyway.
Because he's like, I've done this.
Yeah.
But you know what? Again, if you had the money you're like, I don't really care, I totally would do that. Just be like, yeah, put me in random shit.
Yeah, and I feel like probably, let's say 90% of the people that were in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot were probably like in it for, let's say, scale, like rather than like requesting the amount of money that they normally do, because like Kevin Smith just kind of has this thing with him where like he's just able to draw these people in, and like they're just friends. So it's like, hey, are you free for an afternoon? Are you willing to come and do this for me? And they were probably like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like without really needing to hash out all of that stuff. So
it's because he's got the personality for it.
Yeah, very much so.
I also think a lot of the cameos he got for this one from his friends was because he had that heart attack.
Yeah, maybe. Do you know? I haven't really been able to find too much about it. I don't think they've gone on record as specifically talking about it too much. But do you know much about the story of how Ben Affleck actually ended up coming back? Because obviously they had that big falling out.
Apparently Kevin Smith was talking about it. Apparently him and Ben Affleck got signed on without realizing it to the same event, and they just so happened to be there. And it was after his heart attack, and he went up and he apologized and said, I'm sorry, blah blah blah. This is just from the Q&A. He actually talked about it, and he also talked about fixing the bridge with Jeff Anderson as well. He's done it with both of them, where he's gone up to them and being like, I was an ass, I'm sorry, I let it get to my head.
Alright, well, good to know that he's able to do that, because some people can't.
Right? Well, sometimes when you have a life or death experience, it changes you.
Yeah, I can imagine so. I myself have not been through any life or death experiences, and I don't plan to anytime soon. But yeah, I'm glad they were able to work it out. If for nothing else, like gave us a little bit more Ben Affleck in Kevin Smith. As Kevin Smith has gone on record as saying many, many times, if he were to remake Jaws, he would cast Ben Affleck as the shark because he thinks Ben Affleck can do anything.
Well, we might see that because the last in the Canadian horror trilogy is called Moose Jaws.
Oh, yeah.
So we might see Ben Affleck as a moose.
Yeah, maybe. Especially now that they've buried the hatchet, supposedly. Then, yeah, it could very well happen.
Speaking of Ben Affleck, what did you think about his scene of, like, pretty much bashing Batfleck, but not bashing directly?
I thought it was again just kind of the right level. Mm-hmm. There was just enough in it where he's sort of ripping into that side of thing, but there's clearly that reverence there for everything. So like one thing that I always find the best is when you can see that everyone is just having fun.
Yeah.
And I always feel like, and it's kind of difficult to explain, because obviously, if you have someone who's a brilliant actor, they can get across any emotion, so it can look like anything. But I always feel like you can just tell if everyone in a scene is just like on it, they're there, they're having fun doing it, and I think it's one of the reasons why I like meta humor and that type of thing so much. It's like, especially Deadpool. That is clearly Ryan Reynolds just having a blast. Like, he's just really
letting loose.
enjoying
It's
it.
like they point him in a direction and say, go that way roughly, and he's like, got it.
Yeah, and so it's kind of the same with a lot of the Kevin Smith films. It's like, yeah, obviously they're having fun. It's like, yeah, I like Jason Lee, and I love him in My Name is Earl. I genuinely don't know if he would be able to pull off that smarmy guy if he wasn't having fun being the smarmy guy. Like, yeah, and, yeah. No, no affront to Jason Lee. I like the guy. I like the stuff he's done. It's like, I just feel like, yeah, his character, especially in Mallrats, like, I think it helped that they were clearly having fun doing it, and so that kind of lent to the cockiness of the character. So
I always think about, whenever I think of Jason Lee, the like mental visual I get is when he says in Mallrats, he goes, chocolate covered pretzel, and like he just has that shit-eating grin, and I'm like, that's just the face that I can picture on him, is that shit-eating grin.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was a little shocked that didn't come back in this. I mean, obviously it came back in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that was a missed extra callback, you know? Like, especially since they're doing Reboot. Like, I feel like even if Jason Lee hadn't given the line, if someone else had given the line in that scene with Jason Lee, I think that would have, like, I think that would have kind of put the hat on it nicely. But,
I agree. That was one of those, and who knows, maybe it was recorded and they just cut it because it didn't fit.
Yeah, and again, that's the thing. I don't. Who knows what happens on the cutting room floor? Who knows what they wish they could have done and it just didn't work out? Like, I'm sure Kevin Smith has had all of these thoughts and just, like, for whatever reason, it just didn't work in the final draft of the film and everything. So.
Right?
Yeah, I am very happy that I got to see this, and my kind of final takeaway, if I were to say something to people, is this is absolutely, definitely only a film you can really enjoy if you've enjoyed the other ViewAskewniverse film, because there is no way you can come into this like not knowing and understand it for a start, and then like it's gonna be one of those things. If you are kind of meh on Kevin Smith, you're probably gonna hate this film. If you really like Kevin Smith, you're probably gonna really like this film. So yeah, it's interesting whenever you get something like this, because it's like you can't really objectively like critically view this film, because that's not what this film is. This film is a film made by Kevin Smith for people that like Kevin Smith films, because they keep telling him that they want him to make more Kevin Smith films.
I wouldn't even say that. I think this is a movie made by Kevin Smith for Kevin Smith.
Yeah, quite clearly. I mean, Kevin Smith is in it.
Right?
So...
Twice. He plays two different characters.
Yeah, I mean, 3 if you count Kevin Smith playing Silent Bob playing Kevin Smith. So...
Whoa. He got me there. And the levels of meta humor involved with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just... It was kind of insane that they ended up making this in the first place, and I love it for it.
I agree. It's... my takeaway from it is it's one of those movies where it's like, normally on my show I rate movies. This is one of those movies I couldn't rate it. Because it's just like one of those things where it's like, it doesn't fit the standard kind of category of, oh, when you watch a movie, it's like, oh, I'm looking for these things. It's like, this is just, if you're a fanboy, you're going to love it. If you're not, you're going to be confused. Like it's a 0 to like 100. There's nothing in between.
Yeah, no, I would love to watch someone watch this film if they haven't seen any of the other films.
Or know who Jay and Silent Bob are.
Yeah, because it, like, I brought it up several times at this point, but my in-laws, for reasons beyond my understanding, went to see Avengers Infinity War, having only seen 2.5 Iron Man films.
That's like my in-laws went to go see Quantum of Solace. No, not even Quantum of Solace. What was the other one? Skyfall. They went to go see Skyfall, and they've never seen a Bond film.
Okay, yeah, no, you need a bit more of that.
Yeah, it's like, you're missing a lot.
Yeah, like it was insane. Like I heard that they were doing that, and I didn't go to them and say something, but it was just like, why? What could possibly
what was their
possess you to go
takeaway?
and
I want to
see
know
that?
now. What was their takeaway?
I think they enjoyed it for the action scenes, but yeah, like I think they came out of it and they didn't even really ask questions about it. They didn't even bother asking, like, so who was this guy? Why was this person there? It was just like, oh, okay, this was the film. And especially my mother-in-law, she only wants to see films that you don't have to think about. So, like, I think she went into it expecting that she wouldn't know who the characters were, but that there was gonna just be a big fight. And there was. So, I guess she got that. I don't know. But,
Well, at least she got what she was looking for.
yeah, I suppose.
Go in with low expectations. You're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah, no, it's the most bamboozling thing for me that they've ever done. Like watching anything that I've heard they've been doing. So, we watched Stranger Things season 2 when that came out, and then they said when we just finished, and they texted my wife to say we're starting Stranger Things season 2 because they watched season 1 the previous year, and we were saying, oh, you'll enjoy it, and they said, oh, yeah, we're gonna have to turn this off. We can't, we're not enjoying it. We don't, whatever. And it was like, and I said, tell them just to wait until 11. Like, have they seen 11? And their response to that was, who's 11? It's like, you've seen Stranger Things season 1, right? And it's like, yeah, we watched the whole season, and you don't know who 11 is. It's like just blank slate, not there. She doesn't know. So, but yeah,
that's a rough way to go through life.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. I kind of wish I could sometimes, but I can't. I just can't. And there was actually one thing that I quite liked about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is when I'm watching films, just because I know how films are made, I know basic structures of films, I know basic plots, things like that. Like, I'm able to, if a film is not thoroughly engaging and I'm not thoroughly in the moment with the characters, I typically am able to kind of piece together in my head how a film is likely to go. Mm-hmm. That never popped up in this. I had no idea where this was going to go, and I was in it for the ride. So yeah, it was quite a roller coaster of nostalgia and comedy and just all of that stuff. So yeah,
I agree. Like I said, I
recommend
fanboyed
it.
hard over it, so like I'm in like just total agreement with that. It's just like, yeah, I went in there and I was super happy after I left for like days.
Yeah, yeah. As I said before, my final takeaway for anyone that still wants to go see it. Number one, we did not touch on like 20% of the jokes in this film. So, like, even though we spoiled several moments in it, like, we haven't spoiled the film at all. So yeah, if you're still thinking about it, go see it. Go see it now. If you're listening to us and you've been like, well, that sounds stupid, just steer clear. Don't bother. Because, yeah.
It is stupid in a good way.
Yeah, this is, as we said, it's a film for people that like Kevin Smith films because Kevin Smith made a film that he wanted to make. And, yeah, like those are the films that people that really like Kevin Smith always enjoy. So yeah, I don't have too much to say that we haven't already covered there then. After all that, why don't you let people know all the good places that they can find you if they wish to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can find my podcast on all the major podcast apps and catchers. It's Flicks Xrayed, Flicks Xrayed. I spelled it out because apparently I need to. And you can find me at that same handle on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we just launched our 200th episode, so you can check out 200 episodes worth of stuff.
Oh, there you go. All you had to do just have a spare week and a half.
Yeah, something like that.
Just get through all of it. Yeah, you're golden.
Solid.
Yeah. And as I said at the beginning, you can obviously find us at all of the standard places. Yes, we are through pretty much all podcatchers, and we are on the Twitter, the Instagram, the Facebook. Not as much as we really should be, but hey, I'm busy. But yes, thank you everyone for listening so far, and hopefully you'll keep listening to us to infinity and beyond. Not a flying toy. Alright, bye folks.
Toodaloo.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.